Hello there, I'm Jimmy Vegas. This is how to create a Wolfenstein 3D FPS clone in Unity, and welcome to episode 25. This tutorial, we're going to focus on completing this first level, complete with a little UI screen as well to measure up things like time, enemy score, whatever. And I think we're also going to actually make that sequence occur as well. So over here, we'll have a little trigger to end the level. Don't forget to click on the subscribe button and click the bell icon as well to stay up to date with every tutorial still to come in this series and everything else on game development on my channel. And if you've enjoyed this series so far, please feel free to check me out on Patreon or YouTube memberships where you learn things like early access, exclusive content, project files, and so much more. With that in mind, let's get to work. So, there's a couple of things we're going to have to do to actually get our level complete working. And I'm going to create a very basic level complete screen, reminiscent of what you would see in Wolfenstein 3D. And to do that, I'm going to insert a new UI panel. So, game object, UI, and let's go to, well, I'll say panel. I'm not sure whether to do a raw image or panel. So let's stick with the panel. Let's keep everything consistent with what we've got previously. So let's just call this floor complete panel. And let's open that up in our canvas so we can actually see it correctly. So this is how it looks. So what I'd like to do with this is turn this completely opaque so we can't see through it at all. So let's change the color, like so, and then change it to a color that we would actually want to see. So I'm going to kind of go with a very dark kind of blue, maybe. Excuse me. I think that might be the best thing to do. So next thing I'm going to do is add a couple of text elements to this. So on that panel, right click, and let's go to UI, and let's go to text right there. Now this text is going to be pretty big because generally these screens don't really have too much to them, but either way, it's fine. So I'm going to change this to floor 1, and let's change the font to change it to Unipix. That one, I think we brought that in quite a while ago. Change the color as well. Let's have that white so we can see it a little better. And let's change the size to be much bigger. So I'm going to increase the size of this and then increase the font size to maybe 72. Seems... might do it a little bit bigger. I guess it's all down to you anyway. Let's just have a standard 100, I guess. What font do we actually want here? Either that or that. I'm not sure which one I want to go for. I think I'll just stick with that one, to be honest. So let's move it up to probably about there. So that looks okay. Shrink that down. And I'm going to duplicate and bring another text box just down here and call this completed. So below this we'll have some more elements. So we're going to have a couple of different ones here. So I'm going to align this to the center here and also align the text to the right hand side and have this as time because we are going to implement time in all of this. Duplicate once again, bring it down, and the next one we'll have is called, what should we have, enemies. So the amount of enemies we've managed to shoot. Let's bring that down to the next one, and we'll have this as, what else can we have? Oh, treasures. So how many treasures we've collected, and then we'll do an overall score, which you'll see at the bottom anyway as you're playing through the level, but it's nice to have it on the screen. So let's name all of these texts. So floor label, complete label, and then we'll have time label, then we'll have enemy label, and then obviously, you know, as we go down, treasure label, and finally score label. It doesn't really matter what these are called because these aren't something we're going to worry about too much. Next thing we need to do is create the opposite side of these. So let's take time label, hold Control, press D, and bring it across and align it to there. And let's align that to the left. And I'm just going to put 00:00 for now, because when we write the timer script, that is what it's going to update with. So that's, you know, that's something we're going to do probably next tutorial. I'm going to bring that below time label and put time stat. Next, do the same for the enemies. So bring that to there. To the left, I'm just going to put 0 for that for now. Let's bring that below enemy label and call it enemy stat. So we'll actually write some code to update these ones in this tutorial anyway. But you can see where I'm going with all this, can't you? Hopefully. Treasures there. I'm going to put this as 0 again. Move it into place and label this as treasure stat, sorry. And finally, score. Like I said, it doesn't really matter what you call any of these as long as you know what is what. And let's have that as 0 and change that to score. Stat. Okay, so that's going to be our level complete screen. So if we press play, let's have a quick look. Yeah, that looks fine. That'll do. Obviously, if you've played the old Wolfenstein 3D, you'll know that's almost there. You usually have a bit of a picture, a couple of different things on there, but generally this is what we're aiming for and what we're creating here. So, where do we go from here? Well, I'm going to take off that complete panel for now. And now we are going to modify a couple of scripts. So let's go to our scripts folder down here and stats folder. And in here, we need to basically have a way of keeping count of the amount of treasures we have and the amount of enemies we've killed. We also need the score to appear on our little thing that we've created. So what we're going to do is go into global score. And we're going to update this score real time as well. It won't matter too much because we'll be able to just have a script which instantly displays that level complete screen, which makes things a lot easier in the long run. So what we do here, we're going to do the exact same for probably maybe a different script to keep count of the enemies and treasures. Again, that's just simply because it makes things much easier in the long run to keep count of everything. Obviously, it'd be reset with each new floor we go to. So in our global score, we need to go public game object, and we'll have final score semicolon, and copy this line of code here and place it below. And instead of score display, we just need to change that to say final score and save that script. Head back into Unity and let's set that in place. So if I can remember where it is. I think it's at the top, isn't it? Because it's global container, because we have global score right there. I remember doing that last tutorial. And let's have score stat onto there. So that's the score section of that all sorted. Save my scene, just make sure everything is okay. And here I'm going to right click, create, and C# script. And we'll have this as global complete. Open that up in Visual Studio. And this is just going to be a container to keep count of our enemies and treasures. So we're going to have using Unity engine.ui in there. And get rid of void start because we don't need it. But we're going to have public. In fact, if we go to global health, I don't think we're really going to need health, but I think it's going to work out pretty much the same kind of way we've got here. So public static int and enemy count semicolon. And same again for the treasure. So public static int treasure count. And in void update, we just need to have it is enemy count. In fact, we do need to have the the actual game objects as well, don't we? So public game object enemy display semicolon, and the same with treasure. So public game object treasure display. I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. That's all it was. So we have enemy display dot get component spiky brackets text. Close bracket dot text equals the double quote, and we've already discussed why we use that. plus enemy count, semicolon. And once again, we do the same for treasure count. So treasure display dot get component, break brackets, text, open close bracket, dot text equals double quote plus treasure count, semicolon, and save. Head back into Unity once again, and let's add that global complete to our global container object up the top. And next thing we need to do is add those variables. So let's add treasure stat onto treasure display and enemy stat onto enemy display. Next thing we need to do is we need to go into those scripts where we collect the treasure or kill an enemy, and we need to add 1 to those. So on enemy death, let's head into there. What we need to say is when we say global score value plus equals 100, we also need to say global complete dot enemy count plus equals 1, semicolon, and save. And then we have to do the same when we pick up our gold. So let's go to the gold collect, which is right there. And we've got global score value plus equals 500. Under there, we just need to put global complete dot treasure count plus equals 1, semicolon, and save. So before we go any further, what I'm going to do is I am actually going to play the game, kill an enemy, pick up a gold, and just make sure that they have indeed updated. Go through here. He will not. There we go. So there's one gone. There's some gold collected, and what I'm going to do is turn on that floor complete panel, and there we go. We do indeed say 1,600. Perfect. That's exactly what I want to see. So next thing we're going to do is add in a little sequence for us to display that screen. Although looking at it, I may actually extend this panel out just a little bit, maybe, or maybe I'll leave as it is. I guess you can do that if you want to. Refine it a little bit more, as I always say. Okay, well, let's go to the end of our level, somewhere down here. As you can see, I've actually built up the rest of this level complete now. So let's have the trigger object here. So game object, 3D object, and cube. And let's bring it into position right by the door, because obviously that's where we want to end the level. And let's have it round about there. Let's expand it a little bit, just so as it covers everything so we can't actually miss it. Turn off mesh renderer and take is trigger on the box collider, and let's right click, rename, and floor complete. I'm actually just going to bring it to the top just to kind of keep it in line with a couple of other objects and scripts, just so as it makes it easier when we do the dragging and dropping of the variables. So let's have this somewhere there. And let's go to floor specific, floor 01, and let's have create C# script. And let's just have this as floor. In fact, you know what? Now I think about it, we'll be able to reuse this script in a couple of different places. So if we just go to the main floor specific folder and create a C# script, floor complete. And let's open that up in Visual Studio. This should make things a little bit easier. So what we're going to do is create a little sequence of events, which is going to fade our screen out and then display our actual panel. So let's turn that floor panel off for now, floor complete panel. And we want fade out to kind of obviously come on and fade for us and then display that. So we're going to do this in a coroutine. So let's head to our script, get rid of that. So public game object fade out semicolon, and then public game object, complete panel, semicolon. It's going to be done in an onTrigger enter method. Void on trigger enter. Doesn't need to be private. It can go. Now, obviously, we're going to do this in a coroutine, so let's now write that coroutine. Enumerator. Let's call it completed floor. Open close bracket. Open curly bracket. And we're going to have fade out dot set active true semicolon. Then we're going to yield return new, wait 4 seconds, and it's going to be 2 seconds. I think that's about the time we have for our fading. Then after that, complete panel dot set active true semicolon, and we now need to place in here start coroutine, and in brackets the name of that coroutine. Completed floor, open close bracket, semicolon. Next thing we're going to need to do is, if we take a look at our FPS controller, we are going to need to turn off this first person controller script. So at the top, using Unity engine dot stand oh gosh, I can't remember what it is. Unity, no, it's Unity, if I can get it right, Unity standard assets dot characters dot first person semicolon. And as soon as we trigger this, we need to turn off that first person controller. So we need to define that as a game object. Public game object. So we don't want to carry on moving if we've completed the level. Game object, the player semicolon. Then the player dot get component, spiky brackets, and it's called first person controller. Right there. Open close bracket dot enabled equals false semicolon, and save. And now, in fact, what we'll do is, I think one thing we'll do as well is disable the box collider. So this dot game object dot get component, spiky brackets, box collider, open close bracket dot enabled equals false. So we don't want to run the risk of running it over and over again. So save it, head back into Unity, let it compile, all good. And let's drag and drop that script onto floor complete, and let's set those 3 variables. First one, fade out, and then complete panel, and the player, which is the FPS controller right there. Save the scene, and let's try this out. Make this as quick as possible. Probably get some ammo just to be sure, because I don't fancy dying. There's him gone. That's him. Let's get the key. There's our key. Let's get this guy here. Through the door. There we go. Floor 1 completed. Obviously, we don't have a time simply because we've not implemented that yet, but there we go. Perfect. There's our complete screen. So, next tutorial, we're going to add that time in. We're going to add some lives in as well, I think, and we'll link everything together and see how it all comes along. So until that next tutorial, guys, thank you very much for watching.